Hello, this is CityScape, a regular vodcast featuring people, places, and ideas that impact Livonia. I'm Dan West with the Livonia Chamber of Commerce. Today we visit a team of local caregivers who are instrumental in supporting families enduring the death of a loved one, and they remain available for these families long after the funeral. The Angela Hospice Care Center off Newburgh Road is a Felician Sisters ministry to provide care to terminal patients and emotional and spiritual support to their families dealing with the process. Sister Mary Giovanni spent 11 years researching advanced models for pain control, hospice care, and grief support before opening Angela Hospice as an in-home service in 1985. Recognizing the growing demand for this type of compassionate care, the Felician Sisters constructed the Angela Hospice Care Center in 1994. Later, Angela Hospice was the first in the Midwest to offer pediatric and prenatal services. The building expanded to serve more patients in 2010, and programming expanded to add telehospice services in 2017. Over the past year, some 2,000 patients received care from Angela Hospice, which has emerged into one of the premier hospice care programs in Michigan. To discuss further, we're joined by Angela Hospice CEO Marti Coplai. Marti, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
When a family approaches you about taking care of a loved one at this sensitive time, what are some of the important messages you share with them?
Well, I think what families want to know, especially about hospice care, is that we're not going to do anything to hasten anybody's death, and certainly we're also in hospice not going to do anything to prolong death. That really, as a hospice agency and as hospice clinicians, we're here to support the patient and family and to provide them with the best quality of life that they can experience during the last days of their life. And so it's important that families feel confident that they're going to be still involved in the decision making around plan of care, that the patient's needs and wants and desires are going to be heard, that there is still hope even at the end of life, that hope may change a little bit for what you hope for, but certainly we want to help our patients and families achieve whatever goals they may have at end of life, and we're just here to really support them in the best way that we can, and in what looks like support for them.
As we're embarking on the holiday season can intensify all emotional things such as the end-of-life experience for families. How do you handle dealing with a grieving family, particularly during this time of year?
Well, I think the holidays present challenges for everybody, even if they're not grieving. Mm-hmm. So,
fair point.
Just with so many families coming together, complex family dynamics, and so certainly when you add in the additional stressor of either losing someone dying during the holidays, or if you're grieving the death of a loved one from any time the prior year, when the holidays hit, that grieving can intensify, those feelings of grief can intensify during the holidays. So we always recommend that people be kind to themselves and to allow themselves the space in the room to do things at their own pace during the holidays. If they're caring for somebody who's sick and not feeling well, that they don't need to feel obligated to do everything, to kind of pare things down and do what feels comfortable and what feels that the patient and family are going to enjoy.
Can you describe for us a specific example of how your team successfully brought peace to a patient and their family going through this process?
So, there's so many examples of how our teams have been able to provide patients and families with peace that it's hard to really hone in on one particular example. But and this is a really simple example, but I just love the story. But we had a patient who was at the hospital, and we were transporting her to go home to be in our hospice care at home. And her favorite thing to do in the fall was to go to the cider mill, to the apple orchard and the cider mill. So our hospice social worker and nurse were able to convince the ambulance company to make a trip through the cider mill in Northville on the way home, and our patient was overjoyed to be able to, from the back of the ambulance, have a little bit of cider. She was holding on to a couple of apples, and she was able to make that last trip to the cider mill on her way home from the hospital.
So your team does the best job they can to understand the individual situation of every patient here and try to, support them the best you can for what they are.
Yeah, there's no one situation that's the same. There's no one patient or family that's the same, and I think that is the beauty of hospice from the time that Sister Mary Giovanni envisioned bringing hospice to this community, to the work that we're doing today, is that individualized, person-centered care that hospice is really all about.
How do you remain available to families after the funeral? You talked earlier about what you provide at holiday time, but I imagine you make those programs available to families throughout the year.
Yeah, we have a really extensive grief support program. So from the time of death, our grief support counselors reach out, talk to family members, see what other additional support is needed. We provide one-on-one counseling in person and virtually. We have group counseling, and we're really here for individuals in whatever way they need us during the full year after the death of a loved one. We also provide free grief support services to the community, even to those individuals that were not in our hospice care. So if anyone in the community is grieving a loss, they can reach out to us for one-on-one counseling or to join one of our grief support groups. We have added additional groups over the last few years based on community need. We have suicide loss support groups, as well as those that have lost a loved one to opioids. So we're really focused that grief support on what the needs are in the community.
And those programs are so vital because it tells these people they're not alone in dealing with such trauma.
Exactly, exactly.
It's my understanding you have over 200 employees. What type of people and skill are needed to work in such a vocation such as hospice care?
Well, I always say that if a person has a hospice heart, we can teach them anything else. Okay. So we really look for those individuals that have it in their heart to be there for people at end of life and really possess that deep compassion for individuals that are either dying or have a loved one dying or are grieving the loss of a loved one. And I have found in my years working in hospice that there are just certain individuals that are just cut out to do this type of work. And I think when we have people apply for positions here and they just really passionately want to work in hospice care, and also if they really know about Angela Hospice and understand our culture here and our mission and our core values, which we gleaned from the Felician sisters, then I know it's a great fit if they want to work in hospice and they want to work for Angela Hospice because of our mission and core values.
Well, Marti, on behalf of the community and actually the family also benefited from Angela Hospice service, many families, we thank you and the team at Angela Hospice for all the incredible work you guys do at a very, very difficult time, and it truly is a work of the heart. So we thank you for what your organization does. We thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, and it's always our privilege to be able to care for those in the community that need us, so thank you.
That's all the time we have for this edition of CityScape. We thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again soon.